I'm joined by Jeffrey Goldberg, who wrote a piece in the Atlantic Monthly called A Matter of Black Lives about New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu. Jeffrey, this is a great piece. Let's start in Angola prison. Why was the mayor in this prison? You were with him. What was he trying to accomplish?
No, he's totally fascinating in his sort of relentless desire to understand the nature of the homicide problem in his city. And the homicide problem in New Orleans is similar to the homicide problem in Chicago, Baltimore, et cetera. And he has gone up to Angola, which is the Louisiana State Penitentiary, the largest maximum security prison in the country. He has gone up there a few times now to meet with murderers, essentially. And he's talked to sociologists, he's talked to law enforcement people, he's talked to ministers, he's talked to all kinds of people, try to get his hands around the problem. And then he thought to himself, you know what, let me go right to the source and try to understand, what the guys who've done this crime, why they did it, and what they think. Because remember, when you're in prison for life, you've had a lot of time to think about what you did. And so he gathers this group of about 10 guys, all of them from New Orleans, all of them there for life without possibility of parole, and he asks them about what they did and what they think would solve the problem. It's totally fascinating.
And what does he learn? I mean,
he learns a couple of things. He learns about the culture of sort of male escalation, and what he's trying to do is devise programs on the street that will teach people to walk away from confrontations. He's learned that a lot of these guys say, look, the guns are not the problem. It's the attitude of the people with the guns. Now, he's in a state where there's no possibility of gun reform or gun control. So this sort of helps his message that, look, the issue is not mainly guns. It's about culture. It's about breaking the cycle. It's about getting kids before they get into this culture of retribution, moving them into programs that would teach them another way of dealing with humiliation and controversy on the streets.
I want to ask you this question about culture, but before we leave Angola, which is itself an extraordinary story.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time there now. It's one of the most extraordinary places in America.
I went there once. It has a rodeo, it has a farm, and there's a scene where, and you can say whatever you want about Angola, but the one scene I thought was the arts and crafts. You sat down with
Okay, so this is the saddest thing that I saw in Angola. I mean, and there's a lot of sadness, obviously, in a maximum security prison. But they have a huge arts and crafts program, which in itself sounds funny in a way. It's like summer camp. But they give these guys a lot of opportunity to create by themselves. I'm standing there, and I had freedom to roam around. This is on a separate visit. I had freedom to roam around pretty freely. And very tough-looking guy talking to, in jail for murder, about 25, 28 years old, I guess. Gold grill, teeth, gang tattoos, etc. We're talking for a few minutes, and I asked him if he worked on the farm, and he said yes, but then he said that what he really likes to do is his arts and crafts. And I said, what do you make? He says, hold on one second. He runs around the corner. He gets a bag, comes back with a bag filled with pink hair bows for girls. And I said, that's your art, and that's your art? And he goes, yeah. And I said, I love making hair bows, and pink, magenta, turquoise. And I said, so what do you do with them? And he says, well, I sell them at the rodeo, because they have a huge arts and crafts fair at the rodeo. And I said, how much money do you make selling? He says, $1,900 he made last year. And so what I was left with was this feeling, okay, here's a guy with obvious creative energy, entrepreneurial energy. So imagine we could devise a system in this country in which a guy with that kind of skill and desire gets to use those and gets that channeled before he kills somebody and has to go to jail for the rest of his life, and we lose a life. It doesn't make any sense.
And that's what the mayor is trying to do, short circuit that male escalation you talked about. Going back to the mayor, when he uses the word culture, he's a white mayor talking about an African-American community.
Right.
How does he navigate that?
You navigate it with some difficulty. Mitch Landrieu has an advantage in that his family has been aligned with the African-American community in New Orleans forever. His father was the first mayor to integrate the city. So they have a lot of credibility. He gets the majority of the black vote in that city, and he feels because of that he can push this a little further. He also is very careful not to blame African Americans for this culture. He says, look, this culture happens over decades and even centuries. It's like if you segregate people, if you deny them access to wealth, if you deny them access to good education, certain things are going to happen in those neighborhoods. certain negative things are going to happen. And so now he doesn't talk about black-on-black violence like a lot of conservatives now do. He talks instead about neighbor-on-neighbor violence or other kinds of aspects of it. But he really does believe that you solve this problem by teaching people, young men, different ways of dealing with their frustrations and dealing with life on the streets. And obviously a huge part of that is in education and housing and health and mental health as well. And so he has a series of programs on that.
All right, Jeffrey Goldberg. Well, everybody go read A Matter of Black Lives. Really deeply reported, great piece. Thanks.
Thank you.